I'll take out my notes and then
Yeah, sure.
also I'll ask on the group chat for the link to the website and the login details because I didn't get any login details. But you know the recorded lecture from last time when we did class?
Yeah. They are on the website. I think you'll have to ask Sir Abdullah for the login details. He actually handles that.
I will ask him today.
Yeah.
Economics. So last week the teacher started doing work on macroeconomics. So
All
last
right.
week started macroeconomics and this loads.
So what in macro did you start with?
I think he started looking at like government structure and stuff like that, I think. And more specifically.
All right. So we'll start with micro.
Yes.
We did the basic economic problem, right? You remember it was the scarcity of resources to satisfy the unlimited wants of people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we can have a step process for it. So it starts with a problem.
Okay.
It goes to analysis. Then it goes to outcome. And then it goes to evaluation. This is the basic structure of any economic problem that we have,
Okay.
right? So if, for example, we are trying to answer those three questions, what to produce,
how to produce, and for whom to produce.
Yes, how to produce and for whom to produce. So we have a problem, what to produce. That's a problem for us. We'll do its analysis. We'll maybe carry out a market research to see what the consumers are demanding. That is going to be the analysis of the problem, right? Because we understand the consumers and the market's demand, and according to that, we'll decide what to produce. So how to produce is also another problem. We'll go into the market, we'll see if other people or other producers are making specific good or service, what are their raw materials or what are their costs of factors of production that they are using while manufacturing a particular product. That is also going to be the analysis.
Okay.
Then comes the outcome when you finally decide that this is a product that is the need of the market and this is something that the consumers are demanding and their demand is not being fulfilled. Let's just say we are in a market or we are in a country where there is very, very limited supply of water bottles. So you as a producer, as a new person, go to that market and you actually go and you do the market survey and you see that consumers their demands are not being met because of there is limited supply of water bottles.
Yes.
So you have identified a problem. Now you went to the market, you did the analysis, and then you came to the outcome that you are going to produce water bottles. Then once your water bottles are produced, you actually supply them into the market, and then comes the evaluation part. You see at the end of maybe a month or 2 months that how did your product work in that particular market, and if the consumers were happy or not, and if their demands were being fulfilled by the product that you designed.
Okay.
All right. So this was from a business perspective. Now we also look at it from the economics perspective. That is, any economic issue, maybe unemployment. There is high inflation in the economy. So that is problem identification, that you realize that in a particular economy, like for example, if we talk about Zimbabwe, recently there was very, very high inflation. So just recognizing that there is very high inflation is the problem.
Yes.
All right. Then economic problem, that's right. Economic problem. Then comes the analysis. So when you identify an economic problem, and when you try to apply the theories and the concepts that you have studied in economics is basically the analysis. So if, for example, if I talk about inflation, I'll see how maybe lowering the price of products, or maybe in aggregate reducing the demand for a particular product, or maybe government intervening and allowing people or giving people less incomes through maybe cutting high taxes could actually help in reducing inflation. That is the analysis of the problem, right? So you look at economic theories.
Yes.
Economic theories.
So like looking at policies and stuff like that then as well.
Yes, you look at the policies and you see how, if you use a certain policy, how is it going to impact inflation and also other economic indicators. Because if you try to control inflation with any policy, there are other outcomes that you don't want to see, right? That you don't want to happen. Those are negative effects. So you actually do the analysis that these are the benefits, these are the disadvantages. So you'll do a cost benefit analysis. If your advantages are more than your disadvantages, you'll go with that particular policy. All right.
Yes.
So when you decide that this is the policy that I have to use to deal with the problem, that is the result, that is basically the outcome. So this talks about the result of economic analysis. All right. Then it comes the evaluation. So this happens usually if it's an economic problem, we evaluate the results if it's a certain type of policy, it's for 6 months. So if it's monetary policy, we analyze it every 6 months, evaluate and analyze it every 6 months. And if it's fiscal or any other sort of policy, we see the effect of that after 1 year.
Okay.
All right. So in evaluation, we see that how was this particular outcome acceptable by the general public.
Okay.
Or general public, or if the policy is about business owners, how was it acceptable or how was it taken by the business owners? So this is how you actually go about, this is a roadmap of going about any economic problem.
Okay.
Any economic problem. So whenever now you try to answer a question, or you try to actually try to answer a question, you have to think in this way. So whenever you're given a question, try to identify the problem in the question, right? Once you have identified the problem, then see what are the theories that you have studied and how those theories can be applied to this problem, and then you progress the answer.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to actually give a self-assessment task to you. So let me share my screen. Just join from my laptop, and just a minute. All right, in the time that I'm joining, let me go to the next part. And now that we know how economic problems progress, now we can start with our chapters.
Yes.
So the first chapter is always about, in every book, it's the basic economic idea and resource allocation.
Yes.
So basic economic problem, we already know. We know what are resources, right?
Yes.
Resources, what are resources?
So they can be goods or services and like products and stuff like that.
Yeah. So those are resources, but in economics particularly, resources refer to the inputs
Okay.
that are required or that are available for the production of goods and services
Okay.
that are required for the production of goods and services. So whenever now you hear the word resources in economics, you should always have a picture in your mind that we are talking about the raw material or other types of inputs that are required during manufacturing of goods and services.
Understood.
All right, what do you think are wants?
Wants are like desires of people, like what they require to, for entertainment or other purposes. It's different from needs.
Yes. So need is something that you need for survival. Want is something that you just desire or you need it.
Yes.
I mean, not need it for survival, but you want to have it. You desire it, right?
Yes.
Then there is scarcity. What is scarcity? How you define scarcity in economics?
So it's like it's limited and there's not enough of it, of like whatever resource it might be.
Yeah. So in economics, you have to use two words when you're defining scarcity. You can phrase it however you want, but you need to talk about limited resources to satisfy unlimited wants. So these two should always be there when you are defining scarcity.
Okay.
All right. Then another key term that you should know is choice.
Yes.
Right. So this is just very basic because our wants are unlimited and our resources are limited. We'll have to make a choice. So if, for example, I have $50 and I want to buy a sandwich and I also want to buy a croissant, I would have both of them cost $50. I'll have to choose one and give up the other, right?
Yes. And the one you'll give up will be the opportunity cost then.
Yes.
Okay.
From choice, we come to the concept of opportunity cost. That is exactly what you have told. But we add one thing to it. So opportunity cost is the benefit from the next best alternative foregone benefit. So your opportunity cost from that croissant and burger sandwich example would be if, for example, you select the croissant and you let go of the sandwich. So the benefit or the pleasure that you would have gotten while eating a sandwich would be your opportunity cost.
Yeah, okay, because you picked the croissant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you think of some other examples of opportunity cost?
There was this one example I read a couple of days ago. It was about like how this student would had two choices. One was to watch her lectures and finish any homework she had, and the other choice she had was to go out to a party with her friends. And so they said if she picked option one, which was to study and finish her homework, she would be missing out the fun she would have with her friends at the party. So that would be the opportunity cost.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. All right. So moving on, we have factors of production. Do you know what factors of production are?
Yes, land, labor, capital, and enterprise.
And yes, you're right. And why are factors of production? I mean, why do we need factors of production?
Because it's like, I think it's like a almost like a checklist, because like you need land, you need labor, you need all those factors for in the name hence of for production. So like you need land to have your resources, or you need labor to have people to make that specific good, and then the capital, you need the money to create those resources and buy material, and then enterprises like entrepreneurs and risk, so people who are willing to put money into businesses so that they can produce further and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. So I'll make a diagram for you. These are the fundamental elements of economic problem, right?
Mhm.
So I'll say elements of economic problem. I say there are limited. So this diagram would cover everything that we have studied so far.
Mhm.
Land, labor, capital, enterprise. Then we have producer, consumers, government. And these people have unlimited amounts. I think this diagram is pretty self-explanatory. So we start with limited resources. We have
Mhm.
limited land, we have limited labor, we have limited capital.
Yes.
And all of these are used to produce a certain good or
Yes.
service.
Yes.
The major chunk of the production process, or the major dependency of the production process, is on the enterprise.
Yes.
Because the enterprise is the person who deals with all the risk. So there's a lot of risk involved when you start a business or
Mhm.
anything. If you produce, or for example, if I decide to produce water bottles in that economy, in that hypothetical example that we studied before, there's a huge risk involved. Maybe all the capital that I put into the business may go into vain, because just because people don't buy the water bottles I produce, right?
Mhm.
And so risk and organization of the entire economic activity, of the entire business activity for that matter, is under the control of the enterprise. Even
Mhm.
how much land to use, how much labor to hire, how much capital to put in, all of
Yes.
that is dependent upon the enterprise. So enterprise is one of the major or most important factors of production.
Mhm.
So from this entire part, so from here till here, is the production side of the economic problem.
Mhm.
Economic problem starts from here. Then comes the consumption side. So who are basically consuming a certain products? We know that consumers are the ones who consume the final goods and services. But what do you think? Why is government and producers in the consumption side?
So producers can be like, let's say, someone manufactures, like, let's say, shoes or whatever, like in a factory, then the producers will take and then sell it again. So those could be the producers. So like, let's say, I get books made from this company, and then I would want them because I'm the producer, so I can give them to the consumers then. So like I'm also having that want.
Yes. So exactly, producers consume raw material,
Yes.
just like you've explained. And what about the government? How do you think government is consuming?
Mm, government can consume like land, maybe.
Yes. So so let's just say the government decides to open a new public library, right? So they'll have to buy land, they'll have to buy furniture, they'll have to buy books. All of
Mm,
those are the consumptions of the government.
understood.
Okay, great. Now, let's move on. So chapter 1 is very, very basic. It just covers all of this. Do you know what is the meaning of ceteris paribus?
You told me last time, but I can't remember right now.
Okay, there is an economic concept that is very fundamental to studying economics because it is involved in everything. Ceteris paribus. So this means that we see the effect of just one component. So
Oh,
if, for
yeah.
example, yeah, we see, we want to see how, let's just say,
I
how,
remember
yeah, go
I
on.
remember you said how like maybe like in whatever like in a demand or whatever like chart or graph you want to see like how maybe the weather affected the amount of demand consumers had or maybe the amount of income and stuff like that. So it's just one factor then.
Exactly. And then
Mhm.
we hold all the other factors constant. I'll give you
Yes.
another example. If we see how a consumer makes a decision of buying a particular product,
Mhm.
so so if, for example, there are many components that affect his buying capacity. So if it's income, it's tax on that particular product, it may be the weather, it may be something else, it may be their taste. So if we just look at how increase in income is affecting how the consumer demands a particular good or service, that is going to be that we are going to call ceteris paribus, that the
Mhm.
consumer, if the income increases, the demand increasing, keeping all other things constant.
Mhm. Yes.
All right. Um, okay, wait. Now let me join from my laptop so that you can practice this question.
I have a question.
Yes.
Let's say if we want to look at how, for example, ice cream, and we want to look at the demand for ice cream and how weather affects the consumption of ice cream. So we can talk about like how in the winter the demand for ice cream goes down, and in the summer the demand for ice cream goes up. So we'll show the demand curve, and we'll have one of the like if we want to show how demand comes down, then we'll show the demand curve shifting in, right? So we'll have one curve already there and then we'll have another one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That can be an example, but so in this, even if we talk about just demand, right?
Mhm.
We are not talking about anything else. Even in demand itself, there are many factors that are affecting demand. Once we come to the demand part, you'll better understand this idea.
Okay.
So whenever we are talking about just one thing, either be it demand or be it supply, we're just talking about one thing. Then we look at different components that are affecting that one thing,
Yes.
right? And um, those components, when we see the effect of just one component, that is ceteris paribus.
Yes.
And you'll get to understand this better when we come to demand and supply.
Okay. Yeah.
And let me uh, just make all right. Try doing this question.
Okay.
Take 5 minutes and see if you can attempt it.
So like if we look at consumers and that example they give of India, so could we say the opportunity cost is of them maintaining supplies in the home market and for not doing exports of grain products?
Yes, so
Yeah.
their opportunity cost would be the benefit that they would have gotten from exporting that particular product,
Yes.
green products, right?
So
Yes.
would that fall under consumers or would that fall under, I'm thinking consumers, right?
No, so the benefit that they receive from exports is either goes to the farmer
Government?
or to the government.
Okay, yeah.
So
Okay.
it can be an opportunity cost for either of these two. So for government, so not right now, but I'll explain. There's another concept that links to this, and
Okay.
you can talk about how that becomes an opportunity for cost for the government. But we'll talk about that in the later classes. So right
Okay.
now, you can just give this what you have just told me as an opportunity cost for the government and for the farmers.
Mhm.
Now, how about consumers?
Um, mm, talked about one better. Mhm. For consumers, these goes from rights. What would be one for consumers then?
So for consumers, see, they're saying that the government has banned exports, right?
Yes.
And that means that the domestic demand is being met by the domestic suppliers, right?
Okay.
So before this time, before the ban, there might have been times when the consumers could have imported from outside the country, right?
Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay.
And now that they're not able to import from outside the country because the government is making sure that domestic consumers consume from the domestic markets, that is going to be an opportunity cost for the consumers.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
How about question number 2?
Yeah, all in like the cost and benefits for increase. So the cost could be, it mentions how it's not good news for livestock farmers who experience increased feed prices or for consumers who experience rising grain and meat prices. So that could be a cost. So the rising prices of meat and the rising prices of live feed.
Yes. So that is exactly how you're going to answer this question.
And so like the benefit could be like the demand for the biofuel and how the farmers are going to be producing these products. So they'll be gaining, money from that. So that could be a benefit then.
Yes, that is one of the benefits. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's move on to the next part. Um, all right. Now let's talk about how let's just see. Okay, there are two types of statements in economics. So all the economics is dependent upon two types of statements.
Normative and
Yes, so there is positive and there is normative. What is the difference between the two?
so positive is that I think you can like prove whether it's right or wrong. So like it'll be like a fact or something like that. Like, oh, the water on, not like that. I think it could be like it's like a fact. So like there will be a rise in prices when there will be a rise in demand when people's incomes go high. So you can test that theory and see how it does affect. So it's a statement. Normative is like suggesting, so it's very subjective. Like the government should feed the poor and forget about the wealthy and stuff like that. So it's very subjective in that term.
Yes. So that is exactly what it is. So your entire analysis of economics is either normative or positive. So all
Mhm.
the theories that you study in economics are basically part of the normative thing because they are not being proved. And
Mhm.
all of those theories differ and are applied differently in every different situation. So that is why we call that most theories in economics are normative.
Okay.
All right, moving on, we'll talk about specialization and we'll talk about exchange. So, since I remember you told me that you studied business, right?
Yes.
So, you must be aware of the concept of specialization and division of labor.
Yes.
What are they?
So, specialization, I think, if I remember correctly, it's about like how several, like let's say there are 100 workers, they'll be split down into doing jobs that are like more, in detail. So some might be trained, specialized in like, sewing, or some might be specialized in painting. So it's that I think is specialization in labor. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and
Um,
division of labor, I think is similar to this. Maybe I think like having different sectors, so they're divided into several little groups that are there to do different jobs.
Yes. So this is what specialization and division of labor is. In economics, we term it a bit differently. So in specialization, we say that it is a process in which individuals, firms, and economies concentrate on production of those goods and services that they are best at producing,
Okay.
right? So in your example, you talked about labor, in that is something that can be related to economics. But in economics, generally, we talk about the behavior of individuals, firms, or economies.
Okay.
So when economies actually produce what they're best at, or firms produce what they're best at, that is where specialization comes in.
Can you write that definition down for this?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll write it down. Economies. So, if firms or economies specialize in producing what they're good at, this actually gives them an advantage over the others. So, for
Yes.
example, if you are producing, maybe you're producing ACs at, so every AC that you produce is costing you $10.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And every AC that I produce is costing me $15.
Yes.
So this means that you have specialized in producing ACs, and it has given you an advantage over me because it is costing you less to produce one AC, and
Yes.
it is going to increase your profit. All right.
Yes.
Division of labor is exactly what you have defined it as. So in division of labor, you actually split the manufacturing process into sequence of individual tasks. So this means that if I am producing, maybe I'm producing bread, so I divide the harvest of wheat into one process. Then I divide the transportation of wheat from the harvesting site to the factory into one task. Then I divide the manufacturing of that wheat into edible raw material. That is one task, and then so on. So that is
Understood.
actually division of labor.
Understood.
Now moving on, we talk about exchange. So from the concept of specialization, we come to the concept of exchange.
Mhm.
This concept was started very long ago when we used to have barter trade,
What is that?
right? Barter trade. I'll explain that to you.
Okay.
So, like in the very beginning, people used to produce what they had to consume. So
Yes.
that is similar to the case of subsistence farming. So people just do farming for the sake of just using it for their own like livelihood, right?
Yes.
So people used to do that. But then they realized that certain people are good at producing certain things and other people are good at producing other things.
Yes.
So what they did was that people who specialized at producing a certain product used to produce that product, and other people used to produce other products. So now
Okay.
everybody was not self-sustained. Now everybody had to go out and they had to find people who would actually be, maybe if I am good at producing bread and you are good at producing shoes. Now, whenever I have to buy shoes, I'll go to you and I'll ask you that if I give you 3 dozens or maybe three packets of bread, would you give me one shoe? And you'll be like, okay,
Ah, okay.
right?
Okay.
That is
Understood.
barter trade. So you trade one good in exchange for another good.
Ah, understood. Okay. Makes sense.
And
Yes.
it was long before money was introduced. There was no
Okay.
money involved in this trade.
Okay.
So that is where the concept of exchange came. When after the concept of specialization came, then exchange, and that led to barter.
Water. Yeah.
And that or barter led to the concept of markets.
Yeah.
So market is any place where a buyer meets a seller.
Okay.
So wherever I go and I see you are selling or you want to exchange your shoes for bread, that particular point is called the market.
Yes.
All right. So when we formally define market as a place where buyers and sellers get together to trade.
Yeah.
Now, after the barter system, after the introduction of market, there were so many, it was possible that so many times I would want shoes, but you wouldn't want bread, right?
Yes.
Maybe you would want chicken or something of that sort.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't trade with me, right? So that
Yes.
was one of the shortcomings of barter. So that is when money or some sort of monetary
Monetary.
value was given to the products. It
Understood.
was done in form of stones. It was done then coins were introduced, then paper money came in. So this is how it progressed, and markets which started very, very small have now become very, very giant. We see shopping malls, that is the sort of market. So now you don't have to actually find somebody who is willing to exchange your certain product, but you can just buy anything because there is a very common medium of exchange, that is money.
Yes.
All right. So, all right. Then, so from when market evolved, when market started to evolve, um, countries also started to specialize. So they had to introduce some market systems.
Okay.
So the first one, the the one that holds all other market systems is the economic system.
Okay.
It means the means by which choices are made. So an economic system is basically how consumers make their choices, how producers make their choices. Like in the beginning, we studied what to produce, whom to produce,
Mhm.
uh, for whom to produce, how to produce, and what to produce. So those choices, whenever those choices are being made, and whenever the consumer is deciding what product to use, that basically happens in an economic system,
Okay.
right? Then there are two types of economic systems. Economic systems. So there is market economic system, and there is command economic system.
Okay.
So market economic system is basically when all the resources are market. Yeah. So command economic system is when all the resources are held by the government. The government decides what to produce, whom to produce, and how to produce. All right.
Mm-hmm.
This the main stakeholder is government. In market economic system, individuals decide the answers to those three questions.
Okay. Yes.
All right. So in the beginning, there were many command economies in the world. Russia was one of the biggest command economy. Then North Korea even now is a command economy. The government decides what clothes people would wear, what they would buy, how much income everybody would get. So
Mm-hmm.
North Korea and there's one more country I'm forgetting the name are still full under command economy, fully under command economy. But all other markets, all other economic systems have
Market.
actually changed from command economy to market
Market
economy.
economy. Yeah.
So even Russia was one of the major command economic had a command economic system, but they realized that it wasn't the correct one for the welfare of people, and so they transitioned into a market economic system.
Makes sense.
All right. So in market economic system, it actually pays off everybody for whatever they do. So if somebody is working hard enough, they get more money. If somebody is working less, they'll get less money.
In the command economy, you were saying?
In the market
Market
economy, in
economy. Yes.
command economy, the government decides what money everybody would get.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there,
Yes.
even if you work hard and so much harder than everybody else, you
You'll
wouldn't
still get the
actually know.
same amount.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So there was a very recent study that was that happened on this particular topic. So there were two brothers, right? One went to South Korea and one went to North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
South Korea is a fully market economy, and North Korea is fully command economy. So
Yes.
after 35 years, they met and they saw that the person in the market economy was very, very well dressed. He had smartphone, he had all the other luxuries, but
Mm-hmm.
the person who was from North Korea had very torn out clothes, had no access to cell phones. He didn't have a TV, he didn't have an AC, he couldn't enjoy anything. And plus,
Mm-hmm.
people who are in a command economy, they cannot get out of their country. They
Yes.
just have to stay within that particular region. They cannot go out without the permission of the government, and government never permits anybody to go out.
Yes.
All right. Then there is also mixed economy. So
Yes.
Russia is not completely a market economy, but they're a mixed economy. In this, the government and the individuals both are the decision makers. So
So,
for some
so,
industry, yes,
so sorry. I wanted to say, so is this the same thing as like the mixed economy, free market, and control market, something like that? It's like this.
yes,
Yes. Is
yes,
it that? Okay.
yes, it is that. Then in mixed economy, both are the decision makers. So some sectors such as healthcare and other sorts of education, maybe they are held by the government themselves, but other sectors that are profit maximizing, they are given to the private individuals to
Okay.
make the decisions for. So, what do you think, in your opinion, is which type of market system is better? Like out of the three, market, command, or controlled, and mixed economy, which one would you prefer and why?
I think free market is better because then, or like market economic system is better because I think then people would have more in motivation to make profit because I think it's profit oriented. And so there are different ways that people can make profit, like how you gave the example of the brothers. Like I think the brother in South Korea, I think was more um at an advantage point because he could probably like travel and do trade and meet with other businesses and take risk, but in the brother in South North Korea couldn't because he was only allowed to stay in that region. So I think having that ability to go around and make your own decisions, especially about your business, I think is more beneficial in my perspective, I think.
Yes, you're right. But how about market? How about mixed economy? So, I'll tell you one thing. So, in market economy, the main purpose of people is profit maximization. So
Yes.
they'll do whatever where they are getting the maximum profit, right?
Yes.
In command economy, there are disadvantages, but then they work for the welfare of people. So, for
Yes.
example, if we talk about Switzerland or we talk about Sweden, their major chunk of the economy is command economy.
Yes.
But they have worked on the welfare of people, they have improved the living standards, right?
Yes.
So, how do you think? Don't you think that mixed economy is the right option? Because if we actually put individuals in decision making positions for education and health, everybody in the economy or in the country wouldn't get a chance to get education or wouldn't get access to good healthcare, like people from rural areas who cannot pay enough.
Yeah, no, I think to be honest, yeah, mixed economy is good too because then I think people would have that not all of the control. So there would be some control like in the hands of the government as well. So not every decision is made because we do see countries where like decision, like most of the decision is in the hands of the people and how much detrimental and damage that can be to, the society and everything. So yeah, definitely. I think mixed economy then is the better option.
Okay, yes. Sure. Makes sense. Now let's move on to market mechanism. So let's talk about market economy now. So our analysis would be of the market economy, because right now in microeconomics, we'll just do the analysis of market economy, because we're not thinking about what the government would do. We're just thinking about what the individuals would do.
Yes.
So in market economy, we use market mechanism to determine prices.
Mm-hmm.
You know what market mechanism is?
Could it be like surveying what people want, how much people are willing to spend?
Yes, and that is what is termed as demand.
Mm-hmm.
Market mechanism are two things: demand
Mm-hmm.
and supply.
Yeah.
So knowing what people would spend, and so the willingness and the ability of people is demand, and the willingness and the ability of supply is of supplier is supply.
Mm-hmm.
So when these two are used to determine price, we say that it is a market economic system.
Okay. So when price is used to determine the when market mechanism, and so demand and supply is used to determine the price, that is market economy then.
Yes, price and quantity both.
Okay.
See, we have quantity on one axis and price on the other axis. This is supply.
Yes.
And this is demand.
Yes.
So this point here
is the equilibrium.
Is the equilibrium, and this is the quantity that is going to be supplied, and this is the price that is going to be charged.
Yes.
This is how you determine prices from a market mechanism.
Okay.
All right. Now I'm going to give you another question, and you try solving that. All right.
Yeah.
This is the question.
So like one difference between India and Pakistan is that their labor force, the percentage of labor force in Pakistan is much lower. Not much, yeah, but it's lower than the labor force in India in all three sectors. So like the agriculture, industry, and service sector.
Yes, that is correct. And then you can also talk about when you are comparing the two economic structures, you can also talk about how certain sectors are more efficient in one country. So if, for example, we look at agriculture, we see that in India, even though the labor force is higher, so 53% of the labor force is employed in agriculture, but their output is just 17%.
Yes.
But when we look at Pakistan, we see that 45% of the total labor force is employed in agriculture, which is less than India, but their output is still more than India. So this means that Pakistan is more efficient in the agriculture sector.
Okay.
How about industry? What do you think? Which country is
Industry, I
more
think India is more efficient
in industry? You think India is more efficient? How do you think India is more efficient?
because the labor force is 19 and the output is 20. Oh, but the labor force in Pakistan is 14 and their output is 22. So wouldn't Pakistan be more efficient than?
Yes,
Yeah,
Pakistan is more efficient in industry as well.
yeah, okay.
How
And
about
then
services?
in services, okay, in services, India is because even though their labor force is 28, their output is 63, and Pakistan's output, even though it's 41, their output is 57,
Yes,
right? Okay,
yes.
okay,
Now, so we have done 1, 2, 3. Take a picture of question number 4 and try doing it like write maybe a 10 to 12 line answer or maybe 250 words answer. Yeah, write a 250 words answer and send it to me. I'll see your understanding of whatever we have done so far.
okay,
All right.
okay. So
Once you've
discuss
taken
whether,
the picture, you can
yeah, so discuss
yes, you
whether,
can read the question and you can ask if you don't understand the question.
okay, so discuss whether countries such as Pakistan and India might be concerned if a large proportion of the labor force got new employment in industry or in the service sector. So if they got new employment in the industry and service sector, industry and service sector. So like if their labor force went up, would their output go up as well? So we could talk about how like the more there's labor, the more output we can expect, or there's potential
Yes,
output.
yes, that is one thing. So whenever you have a question of discuss, you have to give both sides. So
Okay.
you have to tell if Pakistan and India would be concerned, and you also have to tell if they won't be concerned.
Okay. How would there be concern then if their labor force, if labor force is high, would that mean then they would have to pay more? So that could be a concern.
That could be a concern. Also, Pakistan, if we talk about Pakistan, Pakistan is an agrarian economy, right? So they are specialized in producing agriculture products.
Yes.
So if so maybe if their labor moves to service or industry, they might not have as skilled labor for industry and services as they would have for agriculture. So their
Makes
overall
sense.
productivity of the economy is going to go down,
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay.
right?
Yeah,
So
understood.
think about this in these lines. Take one day. We'll discuss your answer in the beginning of next class, that is on Thursday.
Yes, makes sense. Sounds good.
And we'll have the class on the same time from 10:30 to 11:30.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Oh, sorry, 9:30 to 10:30
Yeah,
your time.
9:30 to
Yeah.
10:30. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. I'll see you on Thursday.
See you on Thursday. Thank you. Bye.
Okay,
Take
no
care.
problem. Bye. You too.